Man, I'm having a good time with this part 3 right here. We just gonna fall back and listen to this great story, one of the greatest stories you ever heard in the Marvel universe. On this Blue Marvel, go get part 1 and 2. We dug on what a Marvel is, dug on some of this quantum manipulation, the flow of time. We'll get back in that quantum. Right now I'm chilling. I just gotta kick back and listen to the story with my noggin. So let's just surf the way. Love to Comics Explain, doing great work. Fair use in your caboose, bro. And we're just gonna dig on this Comics Explain, man. And, copyright section 107. Allowances used for some criticism, comments. We ain't got no criticism, man. We're gonna surf the wave, man. Do some teaching, do some scholarship for education and recon purposes, man. So let's go, man. Like I said, get part 1 and 2. We're surfing the wave, man. Seeing what they saying. What's this all about, Blue Marvel? They say it's happening during the civil rights era. Let's go, man.
As I call it. Okay, so Blue Marvel, right? Adam Brashear. He is without a doubt probably one of my single most favorite superheroes in all of comic books because this origin story is insanely amazing. It's one of the best written comic book origin stories of all time in the history of comics. And this is coming from a guy who's been reading comics for 25 years, so I know what I'm talking about. Those are the guys out there who have been reading even longer. You guys know what I'm saying, right? So here's the thing. This initially picks up in basically with the Mighty Avengers facing off against a guy by the name of Ant-Man. And there's a little more to him. We'll find out more about his origin. But here's the important thing about the Mighty Avengers, because a lot of you guys have probably never heard about this team. And for non-comic book readers, you may assume it's just a colloquial way of referring to the Avengers. Not true. The Mighty Avengers were an actual team. So the idea behind this, let's kind of sidetrack from the story for a second and go back to Marvel's Civil War event. So when Marvel had Civil War, they released the Superhuman Registration Act. And the Superhuman Registration Act required that superheroes basically register themselves with S.H.I.E.L.D. and their government and so on and so forth. And that led to things like the 50-State Initiative. The bad guys, quote unquote, Reed Richards and Tony Stark and Ant-Man Hank Pym, the guys who were in support of superhuman registration, they won. And so what you ended up getting was, alongside the traditional Avengers team, which was led by Iron Man and those guys, and then you had their antithesis, which was the Secret Avengers, absent Captain America. You had the Mighty Avengers. And the Mighty Avengers initially were really nothing more than a police arm, more or less, of superhuman registration and stuff like that.
Superhuman registration, they keep saying it. So it's like the mutants, the X-Men, any Nagas with superpowers gotta register. Remember, this is a more and more war, man. You know what I'm saying? So in this more and more war, did they do this, man? Oh, what? I guess they would call it the witch hunt now, right? Where they just hunt down anybody with magical powers, magical abilities. They're in tune. Now look at who these Mighty Avengers are that try to rump with the big homie, Blue Marvel, man. You got Ares and all that Zeusism, right? So you already see what side they are. Let's go.
Like that. They were led by Carol Danvers, and they were tasked with tracking down superheroes. It kind of changed as time went on and began to sort of modify. Now, superhuman registration basically ended with the Siege on Asgard event in 2010, which was kind of the start of the Heroic Age, or led into the Heroic Age. But nonetheless, this team is basically a team of some of the heaviest hitters that Marvel had at the time. I say some of them, not all of them, right? So you've got Wonder Man, Simon Williams, you've got the Wasp, you've got Black Widow, you've got Yellow Jacket, which is just one of the different identities of Hank Pym. You got Iron Man, you got Carol Danvers, who at the time was known as Miss Marvel. This is before we got the Kelly Sue DeConnick run, which is when Miss Marvel transitioned from her namesake to becoming Captain Marvel. You've also got the Sentry and She-Hulk. Now, the Sentry is of particular importance here. And the reason why is because with this fight, Ares, the god of war, he's okay. He's cool. But when these guys are facing off against Ant-Man, they're getting absolutely decimated. The fact
Ares, god of war, right? So all this is their Greek god flow, right? Pay attention. They're facing off against Anti-Man. Why they call him Anti-Man? Well, Antichrist. Anybody they're calling anti might be rocking with you and me. You know what I'm saying? So just flip what they saying a little bit and dig on it.
fact that this guy was able to go toe-to-toe with the Sentry is insane, because the Sentry is one of these characters where he's kind of like Marvel's version of Superman, or one of Marvel's versions of Superman. Marvel's also got characters like Blue Marvel himself, which is very much a Superman-esque character, but the fact that these guys are able to hold their own, and the fact that, Anti-Man's able to go toe-to-toe with a man like the Sentry who's so astronomically powerful is quite impressive. Now, ultimately, they end up getting the upper hand on this guy, but the whole thing about Anti-Man is he keeps spouting this idea that, like, the planet, basically, like, humanity needs to die, that humanity is a plague, is causing nothing but problems on the world, that, like, the best thing to do is to wipe out humanity and then to just start over. But in the middle of this whole conflict, he makes this offhand statement: if the Blue Marvel couldn't stop me, what chance have any of you guys? And that's true, right? Because the Blue Marvel is a powerhouse. That's the thing, man. Like, Adam Brashear, dude, this guy is on a whole different level of power. It's absolutely insane. But as soon as he makes that comment, within moments, he basically starts to vanish. He just kind of starts breaking down and disappearing, and nobody really knows where he goes to. At this point, it's just kind of regrouping, right? You have, like, the Sentry, and you got all these guys, and the Sentry makes this comment like he's never fought someone so powerful before. And this was really just like Kevin Grievous, the guy who created this story, establishing just how powerful Anti-Man is. Because the Sentry is one of these characters where when he gets involved into a fight, he almost never loses. The only exception to that is how Marvel kind of treats his character, which sort of sucks. But to give you guys perspective on the power of the Sentry, this is a guy that has multiple personalities. Disorder. So his Clark Kent-esque persona, if we can call it such a thing, is Robert Reynolds. That's him in just his baseline human form. The version you see here, where he's like golden and he's got the hair and everything, that's Sentry. So that's like if he was basically Superman. Then the question is, what if Superman were a bad guy? And that's the Void. Now the Void's power is limited, right? There's no real way to defeat the Void. There's one story, like a what if story, where he basically kills all the superheroes on Earth and then goes out into the universe and kills everybody else. The Void persona of the Sentry, there's one point when he first shows up in Brian Michael Bendis' New Avengers, where, like, the combined forces, right? This is the combined forces. The combined forces of the Fantastic Four, the Avengers, and the X-Men are not enough to stop the Void. It's insane. It's just, and we're talking about, like, full contingents, right? So, like, all the Avengers, all the Fantastic Four, all the X-Men, none of them are powerful enough to hold this guy off when they're all working together. It's just an insane level of power. So what we end up doing is, while they're regrouping, we jump back to 1962, and this is where the story gets amazing, right? This is where the story just gets absolutely mind-blowingly amazing. So you jump back to Blue Marvel himself facing off against Anti-Man. And in this initial skirmish where the two of them are fighting each other, we kind of get Anti-Man saying the same thing he was before, that humans are beyond saving, right? There's no way to bring them back, right? Humans are just kind of this hopeless thing. Right now, it's not really meant to say that. I guess it does seem a little nihilistic, right? A little, cynical, but it's one of these things where once the story comes into full view and you get the full context of what's going on, that Anti-Man's actually not wrong. All the world's problems happen because of people, right? It's not some kind of invisible hand out there that's moving things around, some invisible specter that makes bad things happen. All the worst things in the world happen because of people. But the other side of that coin is all the best things in the world happen because of people. We as people, we're complicated and we're messy. We're hypocritical. We do things that don't make any sense, right? There's no real rhyme or reason or logic to human beings, right? If we were entirely rational beings, we wouldn't really have emotion. If emotion was logical, it wouldn't be called emotion. So because of that, we as people are messy. But that's kind of the big difference between Blue Marvel and Anti-Man. Anti-Man is exceedingly cynical of humanity. He views humanity as people who just, if people wanted to fix the world, they would have, but they haven't, so they don't want to. That's the perspective that Anti-Man has of the world. Blue Marvel is a lot more hopeful, in the sense of saying, like, they will stumble, they will fall, they'll screw up, but in the end, our job as superheroes is to help them become better, right? To show them a better way. We could force humanity to operate the way that we want them to, but that's not what we're here for. And so ultimately, you kind of have this back and forth battle going between the two. And I mean, this is back and forth, like picking up cars and throwing them. Buildings are getting smashed. And this is not designed to display the full totality of their power, right? It's not like, Blue Marvel can pick up a car and that's where he peaks. That's not what this is designed to show. That's not what this is designed to do. Believe me, he's much, much stronger than being able to pick up a car. But at the end of the day, Anti-Man basically just kind of establishes that he can't really be redeemed here, right? There's no real saving him. There's no real, like, getting him to come back from the edge and talking him down. The only way for Blue Marvel to defeat him is to basically stop him the only way he knows how, to pummel him and essentially kill him, right? That kind of seems to be how it is. Now, he doesn't necessarily kill him, but he does beat him within an inch of his life, right? Now, here's the important thing, and this is why the legend of Blue Marvel is so significant when it comes to the black community in comic books. What ends up happening here is in the middle of, once this whole fight is over, he emerges from the rubble, but his mask is torn. Now notice, everybody was cheering him on, right? Everybody was like, yeah.
All right, listen up. It's the good part, right? So we've been digging on Blue Marvel. What a Marvel is, this Naga ends up having some type of like identity crisis. People realize it's a Naga.
Everybody was cheering him on. And remember, this takes place in 1962. When his mask is torn and he comes up, people realize he's black, right? Switch over to the Pentagon War Room. The Pentagon War Room, of course, you have Robert McNamara, you've got the President of the United States at the time, John F. Kennedy, you've got a whole bunch of people who are here. But the biggest issue, the thing that they're talking about is the world and the United States has come to the realization that the Americas and
wait. I gotta read this, man. Let's go back.
about is the world and
a little bit more. I gotta read this, man. We gotta read this comic stuff, man.
Right? Switch over to the Pentagon War Room.
All right, says this gentleman is the Blue Marvel, America's Blue Marvel, the magnificent master of might, the man of marvels, the man of wonders, the blue bomber of battle, a Negro. What kind of intel do we have? He's a Negro. So America's, at this point, he's working for the man, right? He's working for the establishment. He's over there being a superhero on their behalf. He's saving them from anti-man, anti-goon. And now they realize that their savior, right? The person that's saving them, that they're using to save them from all these villains or whatever they want to call them, is a Negro. Now this Negro got to decide, man, who's savior or who's messenger. Who's he going to save? Who's he going to be a messenger for? Who's he going to fight for? How about that? Who's he going to help save? See, they're like, damn, we can't have this guy. They're in the 60s, right? They're like, oh, we can't have this Naga representing us as our greatest hero. Not in the 60s. And then the Naga's like, yo, we got a super Naga? Oh, nah, man, yeah, man, we about to, we ain't marching no more. We got super Naga. We ain't gonna march no more, man. We want to burn this thing down. So it's an interesting situation Blue Marvel's in 1962.
The Pentagon War Room, of course, you have Robert McNamara, you've got the President of the United States at the time, John F. Kennedy, you've got a whole bunch of people who are here.
Come on, man, they got JFK in this thing, man. You think this is play?
But the biggest issue, the thing that they're talking about is the world and the United States has come to the realization that the Americas and even the world's most powerful superhero is a black man. Bang. Here's the thing to know. At the time this story was written, or at least the point this story takes place in, which is in 1962, this predates the arrival of the Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, the X-Men, all that kind of stuff. Inside continuity, mutants are still like emerging. Mutants are like popping up here and there. So like Charles Xavier, the leader of the X-Men, is alive. James Howlett, Wolverine's running around doing his thing, right? So, like, mutants exist here. But in terms of superheroes who are operating out there in the world and doing things to protect the world, Blue Marvel is one of the only ones in the United States. We can largely kind of assume there are maybe some others, but like the Fantastic Four have not gone into space and gotten their powers yet. Peter Parker has not been bitten by a radioactive spider yet. So that's kind of why you don't really see Peter or any of those guys jumping in there. But one of the important things that Kevin Grevioux does here when he writes this is he talks about that he really kind of introduces the sort of nature of Adam Brashear and basically saying he's not just some black guy who got some powers and is doing things now, right? This guy is what the Black community we kind of refer to as Black excellence, which is to say great examples of Black individuals in the Black community. This is a guy who basically graduated magna cum laude from Cornell in 1954 with an electrical engineering PhD and a PhD in theoretical physics, right? This guy is super genius, right? He's super smart, but
Super Naga. He's a super Naga. Hey, man. Told you one of the greatest stories ever told, man. What y'all think is play? Why they gotta make this a Naga in 1962? Huh? Smartest Naga of all time. Strong. Let's go.
The nature of this comic, the way it was written by Kevin Greavious, was to reflect the language at the time. And that's one of the reasons why you see all these different things, because the question becomes, how powerful is he, right? And then we start learning things like there was an asteroid or a meteor that was heading towards Earth that was the size of Kansas, and he stopped it, right? He basically sent it away. That the Enterprise was damaged in the Pacific, that he lifted this aircraft carrier out of the water and took it to a better location, right? There was a hydrogen bomb incident. One of the things that's really being established to us here is this guy's not necessarily a protector of the United States, right? That's the big thing to hit at here. He's done some things that have benefited the United States, but it's not as though this meteor was headed towards Earth and the meteor was like, oh my God, I'm about to hit China. I'm sorry, let me divert my course and attack the United States, right? A meteor the size of Kansas hitting the Earth would certainly be like an end of the world scenario, right? An apocalyptic situation. And that notion of him being a protector of the people is something that's exceedingly important. But one of the other conversations they're having here is that in the current social climate, which is to say, during the time this story takes place, or this kind of flashback takes place, is during the civil rights movement, that the government...
They said, man, it's a problem, boss.
Afraid and sort of scared of what all this might mean.
In this social climate, I'll back it up. What they say? In this social climate, a colored man with that kind of power is a problem, boss. We would not be able to handle should things get out of hand. Or what do they mean, out of hand? The point he was making with that Kansas meteor the size of Kansas thing is Adam, he ain't just working like just working for the United States. He's saving the earth, man. He's trying to make sure the humans have an opportunity to develop and flow. He's acting like a savior character, right? Like a Mashiach character of the world. But what if he specifically starts, being a Mashiach flow to the colored man, to the black people? That would be a problem, boss. We would not be able to handle that situation should things get out of hand.
Where this kind of flashback takes place is during the civil rights movement, that the government's afraid. The government's afraid and sort of scared of what all this might mean. Now, in terms of what the government's actually afraid of, that core particular thing, that comes by way of us switching over to Adam Brashear when he's requested by President Kennedy. And he's basically brought, along, by the secret...
My bad, John. Hijack City's active, as soon as we start popping off from Marvel, let me get it back. They just trying to jam up my net, but be patient. We getting through this. We're over the halfway mark. Let's go.
Place is during the civil rights movement that the government's afraid. The government's afraid and sort of scared of what all this might mean. Now, in terms of what the government's actually afraid of, that core particular thing, that comes by way of us switching over to Adam Brashear when he's requested by President Kennedy. And he's basically brought, by the Secret Service to the White House. But along the way, we get this kind of flashback, so sort of a flashback in a flashback of his time when he was fighting in the Korean War, because he was a member of the U.S. military. And what you end up getting here is this scenario where you have Connor Sims, who was the friend of Adam Brashear, and that they ended up running into an ambush during the Korean War. And this guy actually saved the life of Connor Sims. But despite saving the life of a fellow soldier who was a white guy, the result was that Adam Brashear was never really accepted. He constantly ran into racism almost everywhere he went, being called all manner of derogatory terms that were designed to demean him, right? To bring him down, to tear him down. And you even have this situation where you have members of the Marine Corps who were telling him that, like, you can get all the commendations that you want, right? But, like,
Man, y'all reading this,
called
man?
all manner of derogatory terms that were designed to demean him, right? To bring him down, to tear him down. And you even have this situation.
But as far as I'm concerned, any Alabama porch monkey can be taught to point and shoot. They calling him a porch monkey, man. In the Marvel comic, man. A porch monkey, man. Man, what's going on, man? Haven't you heard Bobby Mitchell might be the Redskins' new running back? They want to keep the Redskins white, eh? What do you think, Mr. Brashear? It's time to start talking some Naga business. Adam.
Where you have members of the Marine Corps who are telling him that like you can get all the commendations that you want, right? But like at the end of the day, you're still gonna be and you guys know what it is they say, right? I mean, of course, you kind of cut off before you actually get that statement. But in the face of all of that, he still holds strong, right? Because it's one of these things where it's kind of like, yeah, I mean, you guys can call me that all you want to, but at the end of the day, I've achieved more in this life than you have. So what I don't hear is bigotry and racism. What I hear is jealousy and anger, right? And so because that is, it's a kind of an amazing exchange that goes on here. But switching back to the war room, the conversation between John F. Kennedy, the president at the time, and Bobby Kennedy, his brother, we basically get Robert Kelly stepping in. Now, Robert Kelly at this point in time is working for the NSA. And really,
the presence of a super-powered black man of that level will upset the apple cart. Can't have no super-powered Nagas running around here. We can't have no black messiahs, man. This is Hijack City 101.
Really, Robert Kelly hasn't actually run for senator yet. He will become senator at some point in time. But for those of you guys who are not really familiar with Senator Robert Kelly, when Chris Claremont took over the X-Men titles, and even a little bit leading up to his time taking over the X-Men, Senator Robert Kelly was a guy who was staunchly against mutants. This is a guy who basically helped to spearhead the events of Project Wide Awake. Now, again, we'll follow up with what Project Wide Awake means here in a future video, because it's one of these things where Kevin Grievous kind of changed it up and basically said it started with Blue Marvel, which was sort of insane, right? Because Project Wide Awake was just a huge event. But basically, you have Senator Robert Kelly who kind of comes in and says, look, civil rights is going to reach a fever pitch here in the next 2 years, right? This civil rights movement in the next few years or so, by 1965, 1966, it's going to be this colossal movement. Right now, it's coming off the cusp of things like the Montgomery bus boycotts and stuff like that. But once it actually reaches like a national scale and it grips the United States, then things are going to get kind of wild like this.
So they're trying to warn them of Nagas going Naga, and they're calling it Project Wide Awake, man. Right in your face, man. Who's wide awake? These Nagas is wide awake to their superpowers. They got a superpower Naga that got their back. What they saying over here? Now, we have been trying to push civil rights through ever since you got in the office. We're close, but it's not a lock. Not yet, but if the country thinks that there's some super-powered Negro running around, they're moving mountains, they'll be scared half to death, right? Well, what country will be scared half to death of a superpowered Negro? Oh, the white country. What we're proposing is just wrong, Bobby. We're at war with communists, not Negro. Oh, really? Because according to the Chickamauga Wars, you've been at war with these Nagas the whole time.
A guy with this level of power is going to upset the apple cart. And that's when you have Bobby Kennedy basically coming to the aid of Robert Kelly and saying, yeah, this is true. That at the moment right now, a man with this kind of power, like what would happen? Like the whole country turned on him in a matter of months, right? And he makes a statement and he says, last week he saved 16 children from a burning orphanage, and white people threw rocks and bottles at him, right? They hurled racial slurs that would make a Klansman blush. And this was up north. He said if it's down south, some cop shoots him, the bullet ricochets, kills an old woman, and they're not going to blame the cop who shot. They're going to blame him. They're going to blame Blue Marvel for that, right? He says many of his own people coloreds don't even like him. They expect him to be some sort of Negro messiah and kill all the...
Wow. Right in our face, bro.
Many of his own people,
coloreds, don't even like him. They expect him to be some sort of Negro messiah. What did we say with Black Savior? All the Nagas in the 60s with the afros, the Black Panthers, what? Man, what is this about, man? This Blue Marvel got a little real. We thought it wasn't about you. We thought it wasn't about the struggle of the Naga and the Negro Messiah. They expect him to be some sort of Negro Messiah and kill all, you know what I mean? They burned down their own neighborhoods in protest because he refused to lead them in genocide against us. This is what they're writing. This is Marvel. This is Comics Explained, man.
People, coloreds, don't even like him. They expect him to be some sort of Negro messiah and kill all the white people.
Bang.
They burned down their own neighborhoods in protest because he refused to lead them in a genocide against white people. And that's really the core fear that the government has. The core fear the government has, and by extension, white America has, is that what you have in the world right now is this black man who is a superhero who's performed these monumental feats, who cannot be killed by things like hydrogen bombs or anything like that. By no real conventional means that exist can Blue Marvel be destroyed. And so if Blue Marvel allied himself with black America in the civil rights movement and turned against the government, then in turn, there'd be nothing the government could do to stop him. He could just go in there, kill the president, and just sit in the White House and just say, I run this show now. On the other side...
So he can give a Naga their freedom, man. Yeah, he's caught between two worlds. But you see what they're afraid of.
In the equation, Black America hates Blue Marvel because he's not siding with Black America during the civil rights movement. He's not siding and saying, yes, we have to go fight the good fight and all that kind of stuff. He's not doing any of it.
Just think about it. I mean, remember Michael Jordan, those who follow, old school basketball, man. He went through a situation where he didn't want to back one of the governors or senators, in Chicago. They wanted him to help with the campaign. He said, nah, man, Republicans buy shoes too, man. I'm not going to be against the Republicans. And he got some slack from the Nagas because they looked at him as a sort of black savior, you know what I'm saying? Someone who can, make some, moves in their community, certify some things for them. And he said, nah, man, I'm trying to sell shoes to the Republicans and the Democrats. He wanted to be a ball player. That's it. I'm staying out of it. Nagas have a thirst, man, for someone to save them. And we got to be MHOE, man, most out of everything. You know what I'm saying? But this is just really validating their fear of what's inevitable. These superpowers, super cons, super Naga cons popping off, man. These marvels, these wonders, being free. These people want to be free for a reason. They want their land back, man. For the dismount.
Right? I mean, this is supposed to be the world's decision. What do we do here? And so ultimately, once Adam Brashear gets to the office of Kennedy, there's a little bit of small talk that goes on there, right? When Adam Brashear was in college, he was an amazing football player, but the small talk vanishes pretty fast, right? Kennedy just kind of says, we both know why we're here. That he says, my grandfather used to tell me about the signs that said Irish need not apply. And then Adam responds and says, but they don't say that now, do they? And so Kennedy says, I'll get right to the point. The world's afraid of you, Mr. Brashear. They have visions of a vengeful, superpowered Negro taking over the world, right? And from there, like at that moment, Adam Brashear jumps up and says, that's never my intention. My intention is not to use my power and to overthrow white America. And that's the stance of Adam Brashear here. He's not a superhero to black America. He's not a superhero to white America. He's not even a superhero to America. He's a guy who protects the world, right? His allegiance is to the world. The notion of him somehow allying himself with black America because he happens to be a black man with powers is preposterous, and it's stupid for anybody to believe that. The other part of that is the belief that he's going to somehow tear up white America. He's going to eliminate all the power that white Americans have. That's nonsense as well. That's not his goal. His goal is not world domination. It's not to take over everything. His goal is to be a superhero to lead the world into a better place. But at the end of the day, But
what if the better place is without the hijack on their land? See, this guy, he's like, hey, look, man, he's not a superhero to blacks. He's not a superhero to whites. He's for the humans. We all are one melting pot. He just wants a better world. A better world for who? It's parasitic to feel like it's a better world just because you invade and your ancestors invade, and now it has to be a better world to include you. That's parasitic. You don't see it the other way around. To you, it could never go back to what it was because you never wanted to go back to what it was. To these niggas with their freedom, that's all they want is their land back and their freedom. Ain't nobody jamming them up, trying to take their stuff all the time. For him to fight for that would not be preposterous, man. It would be him seeing clearly, giving what's just to his own tribe, to his own noggin, what's justified as them being redeemed, man. Redemption is not preposterous, but the hijack will never see it that way.
The point that Kennedy makes here is it doesn't really matter what your intentions are. It's just what people believe. And this is a desperate time. And in times of desperation, people will believe what they want to believe, whether it is rational, logical, or otherwise. It doesn't matter. People will choose what they want to believe. And black Americans choose to believe that you are supposed to be some kind of black messiah that's going to help them overthrow white America. White Americans choose to believe that you're going to do that, right? That you are going to somehow topple white America. People are afraid of you. And so he says, in the end, I have to make a call here. And where you would expect Kennedy, being a guy who did quite a bit during his presidency, you would expect him to kind of stand up and say, I sanction your actions as a superhero. And I will get out there in front of the world and I will tell them that if I need to. That's not what happens. Instead, he presents him with the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the greatest honor that any president can give any man, and then says, I need you to step down. I need you to walk away from being a superhero. At this moment right now, the United States simply can't handle it. We're too racially divided, and we can't have you go forward being a superhero anymore. Let me tell you guys something. This story gets amazing.
So he gets fired because he's a Naga. So he can't team up for his Naga people because that's preposterous. But then he gets fired from being a superhero because he's a Naga. No other reason, just because he's a Naga. He has to get the injustice in his own microcosm way that the macro been getting as a whole. Oh no, I know you're great at your job, man, but we're not ready to handle a Naga with all this power. Take this medal and go home. A car will take you back home. Damn. Thanks, man. Thanks for helping us. Thanks for saving our ass all this time. But we can't handle no nigga, no powerful nigga. Damn. But don't you go teaming up with them niggas, boy. Remember who you work for. Man, Hijack City. We're just getting some of the backstory of Blue Marvel, and he's the most powerful hero in Marvel damn near history, right? Let's go.
Amazing after this. It gets even better because what follows after this, you pick up with the modern day, and it's Tony Stark's hunt, it's Iron Man's hunt for Blue Marvel, right? And the hunt is on, and like he goes through every crap, he goes through everything, right? He goes through all kinds of stuff. He's warned, he's told not to dig through things. It gets super cool. And if you think this is where it stopped with the federal government and their involvement with Adam Brashear, you have no idea. It's one of the best stories ever told in comic books. So with that being said, guys, we're going to bring this video to an end. If you are new here to Comics Explained, make sure you guys hit the sub button to become part of the Rob Corps.
Shout out to Comics Explained, man. We're going to surf the wave on some of his other drop next time. Let me know, man, if y'all want to keep this series going, digging deeper on not just the Blue Marvel, but, this comic flow in general, man. I'm a novice to it, but he got a lot of drop that can catch us up. The hunt for the Blue Marvel, maybe we'll get that next. Y'all let me know if y'all want a part 4, man. I'm just surfing the wave with y'all because we Blue Marvel, and the Marvel is the wonder, and the wonder It's the Naga that they wondering who you are, where you from. They wondering when you gonna pop off. When's the Naga gonna go Naga is what they really wondering, man. Hey, y'all stay, you know, above the 9, man. You know what I'm saying? 9 above, man. Don't get into no unnecessary loops, man. Keep spiraling up. Keep fighting through the hijack, overcoming and raising above the static, and just being a code keeper, daily with every thought you have, with every action you do. Just code up, man, and teach your Nagas to code up, you know what I mean? And all praise the Most High for keeping our families, safe in this time, and, all the hijack that is coming against us, it's just going to end up disintegrating themselves, this frequency, That's why it turns up the heat, you know what I mean? The hijack can't take it, man. They got to get out the kitchen. All praise to why we blew Marvel and surfing away. Shalom.